All right, sixth graders, so we are in our notes on page 17, I believe it is. We're going to go through some substitution. So we did start this yesterday. We're going to review this and then keep going. So substitution is when you substitute or replace a variable with a number. So given this expression of x squared plus x times y, this is an expression because there's no equal sign to it. They're telling us to plug in x is worth 4 and y is worth 3. So when they'd say substitute, I can replace the letter, which stood for an unknown number, with the value it is. So anywhere there's an x, they're going to replace it with a 4. So instead of x squared, notice how it's now 4 squared, plus x times y, x is worth 4, and I'm going to make that x a dot for multiplication, times 3. Now we don't want an equation, so I'm going to take out that equals 28, and let's go through order of operations. There aren't any parentheses, but there's exponents. 4 squared means 4 times 4, so I have 16 plus 4 times 3. Then the order of operations would say to multiply. And when I take 16 and add 12, I get that 28. So that expression, once I plug in 4 for x and 3 for y, is worth 28. So given these two rectangles, if I know opposite sides of a rectangle are the same, if this width is worth 8, that means the opposite side, b, is also worth 8. So what does the letter b represent in the rectangle? Well, not only is it the width of the rectangle, that width is worth 8 centimeters. What does the letter x represent in the rectangle on the right? Well, on this rectangle is made up of 4 smaller rectangles. So this rectangle is repeated 4 times. So if this is worth 4, this piece right here is also worth 4, and each of those is the same value, so they're all worth 4. X is made up of these 2 pieces, so x is worth 4 plus 4, which is 8 centimeters. Now they're saying if both pictures represent the same rectangle, what is the area of the rectangle? So down here we have area equals length times width. So in math, we use letters or variables to represent these words. So area is represented by A. The area is L for length. X we're going to change that to the dot, and W is your width. So to find the area of this specific rectangle, which is shown 2 separate times, I'm going to replace the width. How wide is it? It's 8 centimeters. But we just write the 8. The centimeters will come in when we're done for our answer. 8 times the length is this piece right here, which is made up of this 4, plus this 4, and this 4, and this 4. All 4 of those put together. 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 more is 12. Another 4 is 16. So the area is equal to, area is still unknown. That's what I have to find. To find the area for this rectangle, it's 16 times 8. So this area is, and I'm going to do some math on the side here, 16 times 8. Well, 8 times 6, that's 48. 8 times 1 is 8. 4 more will be 12. So the area is 128. Now the length and the width are centimeters, but the area's measurement, like the tiles on my floor, they're squares. The area is 128 square centimeters. But I want to show you how else we write this. The more sophisticated way to write square centimeters will be to write that as the area equals 128 centimeter squares. The centimeters are squared. Square centimeters, centimeters squared, saying the same thing. So the area is 128 centimeter squares. Okay, if you go to the next question, now we're talking volume. So volume is a 3-dimensional thing. So there's a length, there's a width, and there's a height. So there are 3 dimensions. Since we know the formula to find the volume is volume equals LWH. So let me rewrite that. Let's expand that out. Volume equals L, which I'm going to use a cursive L so it doesn't look like a 1, times the width. And let's go back to here. How do I know it's multiplying? It goes along with that invisible math sign, that orange sign up at the top by the invisible math. 2 letters with no symbol, it means it's multiplication. So volume equals length times width times the height. So the volume is what we're looking for. Let's find the volume. The length is how long is it? That's 6 centimeters. So I'll put a 6 in there. The width, how wide is it? That's 2 centimeters. Times the height, how tall it is, which is 8 centimeters. So now I'm going to use the order of operations to figure out the volume. So let's start with 6 times 2. That's 12. 12. Now I'm going to do 12 times 8, which would be 96. So area is square units, but volume is cubic units, so centimeters cubed. So the volume of that rectangular prism is 96 centimeter cubed. So if I had little centimeter cubes to fit inside there, there's going to be 96 that it would take to fill that object. Okay, if we keep on going here, question 14 is we have a square. Now I have a little issue with this picture. They're saying this side is S, but I don't really know it's a square. It looks like a square, but we can't assume it's a square just because based on looks. So there is a way that we show that this is a square, but all four sides are the same. That it's not just a rectangle with opposite sides equal, but all four are equal. So what we do is we draw a little tick mark on one, and then I want to show that the opposite side is equal. I'll put another tick mark. But with a square, I want to show that this side is also the same, so I put another tick mark, and that one is also the same. So all four sides have the same marking, so it's a square because all four sides are the same. So a square is a rectangle, so I can use the area equals length times width. Now they talk about sides squared because really in a rectangle, the length and the width are the same. So down here it's saying replace the side length S of the square with 4 inches and find the area. So each of the four sides are 4 inches. So to calculate the area, the length is going to get replaced with 4 because it has that tick mark. It's also with 4. And the width is also 4. So the area equals 16. And again, area, like the area of my floor, it's square tiles, 16 inches squared. So area is 16 square inches or inches squared. Okay, so area is length times width for a rectangle and a square. So 15 has 2 separate rectangles, and they're asking you to complete the table. So for this one on the right, we'll do the right one first. Oops, sorry, not the right, left. We'll do the one on the left first, and then we'll use the second row for the one on the right. So on the left, the length is how long it is. That's 36 meters, and its width is 23 meters. And for the one on the right, the length is 3 5/10, while the width is 14. And I need to label that as yards for each of those. Those are my units. So the area of a rectangle is going to be length times width. So for the left, one on the left, the length is, the area will be 36 times 23. Now I encourage you to pause the video and to figure out this answer before you check in with me. Okay. So hopefully you pause the video to find your area, but my area, and I actually have a mistake here, write an expression, so I can't have an equal sign. So I'm going to take out, to find the area, we're going to do length times width. So I'm going to take 36 times 23. So 3 times 6, that's 18, carry my 1. 3 times 3 is 9, 1 more is 10. Cross that out, I used it, so I'm going to put a 0 down, so I start in the tens place. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 3 is 6, and 1 more is 7. So my addition here is pretty simple. The rectangle's area as a number is 828, and then we're going to say meters squared, area square units. So now we need to do the same thing for the second rectangle, the one on the right. So again, I encourage you to pause the video, get your answer, write your expression, get your answer before unpausing to check in with what I have. So hopefully you've paused the video and tried this out. So area is equal to length, which is 3 5/10, times 14. So I'm going to write down 3 5/10 times 14, and now I'm multiplying with a decimal. I do not need to line up the decimals. No bearing on my multiplication. Multiply it just like the last guy, then I'll scoop up the decimals at the end. So I have 1 decimal that I'm scooping up to make sure I bring at the end. 4 times 5, that's 20. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 and 2 more is 14. Cross that out, I used it, put a 0, so I start in the tens. 1 times 5 is 5, and 1 times 3 is 3. So 0, that's a 9, that's a 4. But my answer is not 490. I had 1 decimal to bring back in, so my answer is 49, or if you want to leave the decimal in there, 49 0 tenths. And if I go back, yards squared. All right, the last part in here says find the perimeter of each quadrilateral. So add up all the sides. So the rectangle on the left, I have to add 36 plus 23 plus 36 plus 23 to add all 4 sides. Now if I'm strategic here, I'm going to add those 2 together. 36 and 23 added together is 59, and this is also 59. So when I add 59 and 59, I'm going to use the space for 17 there. 9 and 9 is 18. 10 and 1 more is 11. Perimeter is 118 meters. Perimeter keeps the units. Area use units squared, and volume is units cubed. So I'm going to say your last part of today is to find the perimeter of the one on the right. And once you finish with that, make sure you've completed the Unit 4 mixed homework and you're working on your IXLs, which are due on Friday. Hoping to get a really good report from the sub that we're well behaved and on task.